May we be seated? I would like to welcome the Minister and her team of senior officials who are present here and also from the entities of social development. I'd also like to welcome the Minister's guests who are in the gallery, who are now the guests of Parliament. Just to advise the members in the gallery that while the proceedings are going on, we would ask that you do not participate in what is happening in the sitting. There might be at times things that are exciting and you would be tempted to clap your hands. In terms of our rules, you are not supposed to. Even if you may be angry, some of the things that are said, you are not supposed to make any noises in the gallery. You can either smile or frown if you are not quite happy. But you are not supposed to participate in what is happening. Siyanamukela nonke ninenkhona. I'll now ask the Secretary to read the first order.
Debate on vote number 17, Social Development Appropriation Bill.
Ngizocela ilungu elihloniphekile ungqongqoshe we-social development unkosazana Bathabile Dlamini. I'm sorry, Minister, I didn't advise you there's a podium. Order, can we allow
Strong people
the Minister?
cry. They don't pretend as if
Order.
Hlalo wenhlangano usekela ngqongqoshe waka social development umama Henrietta Bukhopane Zulu uhlalo wekomiti le social development umama Uzoleka Xapha, honorable members of parliament, distinguished guests, partners and members of the community here present, ladies and gentlemen. 22 years have passed since South Africans from different walks of life voted for the very first time to usher in a democratic and inclusive South Africa. 2 years later, in 1996, South Africa cast it in stone its intention to build a society that does not, as was the case under the apartheid regime, tolerate and normalize racism, sexism, and other forms of institutionalized discrimination and systemic economic exclusion. Lest we forget, the South African Constitution not only provides for important civil and political rights, but also makes provision for socio-economic rights inclusive of social security. We therefore dedicate budget vote number 17 to the memory of those who paid the supreme price in pursuit of our hard-earned constitutional democracy. Among them were millions of women who dedicated their lives towards advancing people's power in every community. This theme is a stark reminder that our freedom was not free and should not be taken for granted. Honorable members, as I stand in this august house, we must acknowledge the important role that was paved by our forebears of the women's struggle that is more than 98 years ago under the leadership of the gallant fighter, Charlotte Maxeke. Let me further salute the heroic women who marched to the Union building on 9 August 1956 to protest against the unjust past laws. This year, we will be commemorating 60 years of that historic march. They demonstrated fortitude in confronting the most difficult conditions of organizing women under severe patriarchal and apartheid repression. May their spirit live on. As was then, the struggle of women remains significant to the development of our society. It was President Nelson Mandela who then said, I quote, "Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression." Allow us to salute our brave daughters at Rhodes University and elsewhere who recently stood up to assert the rights of women, and especially to make their voices heard against institutions that serve to normalize and perpetuate rape culture in South Africa. This is the cardinal theme of our Constitution, which establishes a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Women's rights are human rights. The despicable acts of gender-based violence are at odds with our constitutional values and the ideals of the ANC-led government. These values and ideals are aimed at creating a society where no person is subjected to violence and discrimination. We must act against patriarchal homophobes who rape and kill black lesbians, those who seek to stop the building of mosques, as is the case in Valhalla, Pretoria, because of racism and Islamophobia. We condemn those who seek to weaken workers' rights to advance the interests of big business. These constitutional values embody the historical struggle of the ANC and are fundamental to the ANC. The ANC will never put to a referendum critical issues that derive from the Bill of Rights, such as the prohibition of the death penalty and the rights of same-sex couples to marry, as once suggested by the leader of the DA. We are not selective in the protection and respect of the constitutional values. The Department of Social Development received a budget of 148 billion rand this financial year. Of this, 140 billion rand goes directly to poor households to support the elderly, people with disabilities, and children. Budget Vote 17 remains faithful to the vision and ideals as expressed in our Constitution. The commitment of the ANC-led government towards progressive realization of these constitutional rights is expressed through the expansion of our social assistance program to almost 17 million South Africans. Our commitment is expressed through legislation such as the Older Persons Act, the Children's Act, and the White Paper on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. During our address to this House a year ago, we reported progress made by the Ministerial Committee appointed to review the White Paper on Social Welfare. The committee has completed its report with specific findings and proposals that we will table to Cabinet before the end of this month. We acknowledge the challenges we are facing regarding the recruitment of and employment of social work graduates. We are working tirelessly towards finding a lasting solution to these challenges. To date, out of 10,000 social workers that we've trained, we've absorbed 7,291. Through creative ways, we have employed an additional 248 social workers for specific programs such as family finders for both child support and foster care grants. Through our collaboration with other partners, we have been able to employ an additional 94 social workers to strengthen child protection services. Siyaqhuba. We are dedicating this budget vote to the struggle of women, and we are utilizing the Constitution as the shield by which their protection is guaranteed. We have noted that our communities and families continue to be torn apart by the scourge of violence, abuse, and discrimination. To address these challenges, we are going to table the Victim Support Services Bill, which will strengthen the protection, care, and support services for victims of crimes and violence. Ukuhambe uye nami ku-community ubone ukuthi bazokwenza njani. Our command center on gender-based violence is an
Chairperson,
example of
Chairperson.
utilizing technology to improve public
Order,
services.
honorable members. Honorable Ollis, what's the point of order?
Thank you. We've made the point privately to you that the translation is not working. The minister is switching between languages and we can't understand what she's saying because...
Thank you. Order. Order. Honorable members. Order. Honorable members. The member is addressing the chair on a procedural matter, and I think we should respect that. We will talk to the translators to deal with the matter. Thank you. Honorable Minister, can you proceed? Members, can we please allow the minister to be heard?
Our command center on gender-based violence is an example of utilizing technology to improve public services. The command center provides valuable counseling services to address all forms of trauma. By January 2015 and 2016, the dedicated staff of the command center attended to more than 55,000 calls. And we've received accolades in the form of awards in London and Las Vegas for the best technology innovation small center in the world. Building on the success of the command center, we will be mainstreaming services to people with disabilities so as to make these services more inclusive and accessible in line with our constitutional mandate. Our next step is to consolidate command center through the inclusion of Childline and SASSA. Key to our interventions on gender-based violence is the need to empower unemployed women who are trapped in violent relationships and dependent on their abusive husbands. Working together with NDA, we will provide them with necessary skills through our capacity building initiatives. In the end, every voice counts in ending gender-based violence. And those that commit gender-based violence and hide their stories, they will be unraveled very soon. Honorable Chairperson, current trends indicate that South Africa is a source, transit, and destination country for men and women subjected to trafficking for forced labor and commercial sexual exploitation. The analysis of the trends highlight that forced commercial sexual exploitation is the most reason for trafficking of humans. To combat the trafficking of persons, the department will be implementing the Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act and working together with the Justice Cluster. Early childhood development forms part of our goal of investing in the development of children as one of the primary means of building human capital and reducing intergenerational poverty. In line with the resolutions of the ANC 52nd Congress in Mangaung that declared ECD as a public good, we take pride in announcing that Cabinet approved the ECD policy in December 2015. The policy presents 15 strategic objectives to ensure universal access to ECD services by 2013. The policy will give our children the best possible start in life. To achieve this goal, 810 million rand has been allocated as a conditional grant. This allocation will enable us to expand ECD services in line with ECD policy over the MTSF period. We take this opportunity to encourage parents and primary caregivers to take their children to ECD centers so that their minds are stimulated early in life. Ligotshwa lisemanzi. We applaud the recent steps taken by the Department of Higher Education to gazette the draft policy on minimum requirements for programs leading to qualifications for practitioners and educators in early childhood care and education. And amakhosikazi kuzofanele ukuthi abheke ukuthi uma ngabe sekutrainiwe abantu sesiqalile esebenza akugxoshwa laba ababeqale ama-ECD center nabo kufanele ukuthi siba empower. Allow me to salute and congratulate the finalists of the South African ECD Awards who are seated in the public gallery. In order to provide quality services to child and youth-headed households, the department has developed a register of child and youth-headed households so that we are able to design and provide developmental interventions that are informed by the needs of the children. We continue with our psychosocial interventions for children to implement our Isibindi program, strengthen our child care and child protection programs, as well as our social assistance programs for vulnerable children. We undertake all these initiatives because we care and we are committed to our obligations under Section 28 of the Constitution. As we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the June 16 student uprising of 1976, we call upon all young people to play their part in nurturing our constitutional democracy under the theme #40 years on, recommitting our youth to active citizenry and building an integrated society. The department will bring together over 250 youth development activists and change agents through a commemoration tour which entails a walk through the historical and memorial sites in honor and remembrance of the class of '76. It is incumbent on today's generation to emulate the disciplined actions and calls of that generation. Each one, teach one. Each one must care for another. Ubuntu lobo. All of our work in the social development sector is informed by evidence we get from our Mikonzo program. We interface with ordinary people and obtain deeper understanding of their plight. Mikonzo provides us with an opportunity to develop, strengthen, and implement responsive social development initiatives. Yes, ama-skeleton, yilento le othi mangabe usubanjiwe ukuthi wayisho bese uyayi-expanja. Uyi-expanje from ilento, ama-networks. Yes, nakhipha istory selida yenu. Kade iti ama-LGBTIs must be prayed for. And why did you expunge that in social network if it was not a skeleton? Eh? We continue to increase our physical footprint in order to remain closer to the people we serve. We will massify all our programs by institutionalizing Mikonzo program in the social development sector before the end of this financial year. CBOs, FBOs, and NGOs remain important partners of government in the delivery of services. Yeah, by-elections are coming and we're going to put people into trucks. We remain committed to strengthening partnership with civil
Order.
society organizations. This year, we will be amending the NPO Act to ensure that our NPOs are better placed to deliver services without any obstacles. The NPO bill will be
Order.
introduced to Parliament before the end of the current financial year. Abanye abathule nje because bathe bona bazothatha izwe through the barrel of the gun, and we are waiting for you. The NDA provincial departments, in collaboration with the private sector, will be embarking on the intensive capacity building and mentoring
Order, honorable
drive
members.
for NPOs.
Order.
We are not as shaken by stadiums.
Order.
We are not as
Honorable
shaken
members.
by stadia.
Honorable Minister.
Because people who
Honorable
go
Minister.
there, some of them don't vote.
Honorable Minister.
Some are just fellow travelers. Okay.
Honorable Minister, can you please stop? Order.
Because
Honorable
I'm
members
not
on
a
both
coward.
sides.
That is why I cry if I want to cry. Yes, I will always cry if I am hurt. If I see our people living under difficult conditions, I will cry. I'm not going to behave strong to please you. I'm here to work for the people of South Africa. And then you must go and correct that thing you did in the Free State. We are coming. It is going to come very soon, and you will not shout like this. With this budget, the department recommits itself to the implement. Corruption. Ilidayeni yayenza iprovince yaseLimpopo yalala ngesisu yacishe yaphela. Government had to intervene. Tax, ikandal ze-tax zaphelelaphi. Izindla yezakha, izindlu ayeza utshwala angibazi nanayizolo angaze ngibthinte, and people who know me know that I don't drink, and that's it. With this budget, the department recommits itself to the implementation of the household food and nutrition security strategy. Together with NPOs, we have created a network of 166 community nutrition and development centers in targeted poor communities that are affected by high levels of food insecurity and malnutrition. These centers have also created over 600 jobs. We will increase these centers to at least 200 this financial year. In line with government's pronouncements on preferential procurement, the department has introduced programs to plug the flow of resources, including social assistance, to our poor. Consequently, the department, working closely with SASSA and NDA, have linked 200 cooperatives to economic opportunities. And in our first year of implementation of co-ops, we have procured over 100 million rand worth of goods from local cooperatives. And therefore, let's go to communities. The purchase of food from these cooperatives will also motivate communities to grow their own nutritious food and assist in the mitigation of the impact of the high food prices. Siqosha indlala, and indlala izokwetshwa. I'm also pleased to announce reforms to the social assistance program, which aims to better the lives of the poor South Africans, particularly children. We are all aware that the country is presently faced with a high number of orphans and vulnerable children, child neglect, and poverty. As such, the department has sought an intervention that strengthens and supports the safety net of poor children who are orphaned and living in child-headed households by increasing the value of the CSG of these children. The policy for this was approved by Cabinet again in December last year, and we will be introducing legislation for this to Parliament within the current financial year. Going forward, the department aims to introduce proposals to amend Social Assistance Act to remove the current internal reconsideration mechanism within SASSA. This will ensure easy accessibility for appellants to internal remedies by approaching the tribunal directly without resorting to expensive legal costs and receiving appropriate and accessible services. In his budget speech, the Minister of Finance committed us to releasing the discussion paper on comprehensive social security reforms by mid-year. In this regard, we have examined many international good practices with a view to move to a new social security dispensation in our country. This will ensure that we achieve adequate social security coverage for all within reasonable constraints. Improvements have also been made over the course of last year. The Independent Tribunal for Social Assistance Appeals has also significantly improved the speed at which it adjudicates appeals. Over the last 24 months, the 90-day turnaround time has been improved drastically, from 49% to 82%. This ensures that our social grant applicants and beneficiaries have exercised their right to administrative justice. The ANC-led government has thus consistently delivered on government's most effective anti-poverty program. Our social assistance program now reaches almost 17 million South Africans. More than 2/3 of all the social grant recipients are children who receive the child support grant. 3 million older persons, and then a million people with disabilities. Kubalulekile kakhulu ukuthi sibonge uDr. Uzola Skweyiya nge-foundation that he built when he consolidated the payment system. The investment that government is making in the lives of poor and vulnerable learners is showing positive results. Through our program Isibindi and the CSG, our children are performing very well. Out of plus 455,000 learners who passed matric, 4,913 learners received a social grant. Indeed,
I'm sorry,
social
Honorable
assistance.
Minister, your time is up. Order. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister. Order. Honorable members, I would like to indicate that the problem of translation has been resolved. As you know that all 11 South African languages are official, so members can use whatever language that is available. I also want to indicate that Honorable Sonti from the EFF will be addressing in Xhosa. I'll now ask Honorable Kapa to address the House.
Sihlalo wendlu ohloniphekileyo, mphathiswa ohloniphekileyo, uNkosazana Dlamini Masjadu, amalungu ahloniphekileyo endlu ngokwezigcina zawo, nditsho kwakhona ndithi nqanga nensiba zayo, abantu basekhaya abahle, ndizise imibuliso yekomiti yophuhliso loluntu, molweni sizwe. Ndivumeleni ke ndithi thaca kwakhona, ndaleke umsundulo kwintetho esele ithwe thaca ngumphathiswa wesebe. Ingxelo esiyibeka kule ndlu yileyo ithe yaxoxwa ikomiti, icaciswa yintloko yesebe kunye nabo ikhokela nabo, i-budget vote number 17. Igocagociwe le ngxelo malunga nenkqubo ezicetyiweyo zeminyaka emithathu elandelanayo. Ingcaciso esiyifumeneyo yenze ukuba siliqhwabele izandla isebe kunye nomphathiswa walo. Loo nto ke ayithi, it doesn't mean that members of that portfolio committee are not allowed to have a different view. Ndithi ke ngokuba le komiti uqhubile lo mcimbi, andinibophezeli xa ngaba ninenye imbono. Yimbono le yekomiti ngokupheleleyo. Ndicacisela abo bangahlali kule komiti. We must note, nakubeni amazwe amaninzi athi xa isimo soqoqosho economy sihlile athathe isixa semali enkulu asabele economic development. Hayi umgcini mafa umnumzana uGodam akayenzanga loo nto. Ndithetha nje inkqubo zabo bangathathi ntweni zithiwe jize yaze ke i-protection yabo yaba guaranteed. Akuthi ke sizwe sakokwethu ngenxa yento yokuba ilizwe jikelele linengxaki yoqoqosho, abantu bakuthi akukho nto bazayizuza, baya kuhlala behlala njengabanye abantu njengayizolo. Isimo soqoqosho nakuthi apha eMzantsi Afrika sihlile, kodwa isabelo sabangathathi ntweni sisebenza ngohlobo ebelulindelekile. Aba bantu ke ndijongise kubo ukuba mabangaxhali, asinavalo, sisebenza kanzima. Social protection, their social protection has been guaranteed. Ngabantu abakhulileyo, abantu abadala ukutsho, elderly people. Imveku, nabantu abatsha, that is infant and youth, nabaphila neziphako zomzimba, living with disability, kunye nabo baphila nentsholongwana kagawulayo. This government of the African National Congress takes care of those people full time. Kuyabonakala apha ngaphandle kukho imibhalo ememeza ukuba abantu boMzantsi Afrika mabavotele into ekuthiwa yi-change. Kodwa bona aba bantu bayazibuza bathi yiyiphi le nguqu ifunekayo, kuba kaloku phambili phaya inguqu efakiweyo yeguqula isimo ebesidalwe ngurhulumente wocalucalulo. Lo rhulumente ke ubecalula ngokwebala, ngokwentlalo, ngokwenkolo nangokoqoqosho. Mandiniqinisekise inyaniso le ndiyithethileyo. Imithetho yobandlululo yayifuna ukuqinisekisa ukuba idolophi zimhlophe, white by night, abantu abangemhlophe nabamnyama bahlaliswe kude le kwindawo ekuthiwa amagama azo zifer genugu. You have to be far enough. Bambi bahlaliswe kumaphandle. Xa usithi phandle, you saying outside. Apho kubi kakhulu ukutsixiza amazinyo. Izibonelelo zikarhulumente ezifana nezikolo, amaziko empilo, into ekuthiwa ziikliniki, i-preschool, indlela, uzizisile urhulumente okhokhelwa yi-ANC. Indawo ni le nto ifuna inguqu. Nam ndiyabuza, inguqu ebuyele emva kuyabonakala. I-ANC kwenye yendibano zayo yeza nesikhokhelo esithi ready to govern. Yaphinda yeza nesinye isikhokhelo esasisithi ANC policy on social development. I-white paper ke yaba sisiseko sokuqala ukuba makuguqulwe. Nansi yona nto ibiguqulwa. Abantu mabazazi ezi zinto. What was going to be changed was the fact that a black woman would never be able to apply and access social grant, not unless her husband has been able to do so. The husband, the black one, was supposed to first give away, if you have one cow, you then have assets and you can't access it. If you've got 2 rondavels, you have to change that and give it to your son or your uncle. Even if you are 78, if you still have an asset, that policy was there and was changed. Secondly, what I also want to say is that despite that, a single low-income parent, if not black, would receive under the maintenance ask, would be given 430 rands plus 135 for each of her children per month, while the black people were actually excluded. Yeyiphile nguqu ke kuthiwa makuyiwe kuyo. Iza kwenza ntoni? Apartheid cruel system ran a policy that was based on exclusion, characterized with racial poverty, hunger and starvation, high morbidity and mortality rates amongst others, infants and elderly people. Ungamamela ezemiphanga. Ubona uba ngobani abakhutshwa pha. Abathi ngenxa yenhlalo abahleli kuyo ubomi babo bube bufutshane. Social development is preventive and promotive and wants to ensure that while usidla ubomi balapha kuba ke obuzayo sawufezelwa phezulu. Ubunzulu bothando lwe-NCC buvasise lapha. Kuba kaloku kuyaqinisekiswa into yokuba zonke imfuno zakho uyazifumana. Ezinye zezo mfuno yi-child support grant, old age grant, grant in aid, stress relief, access to housing, food security, and nutrition. Social development has been transformed. It started from welfare because there was a need to immediately address the atrocities of the past. Later on, it was transformed to be social development. And we can see today the unit under Mr. Nichipale dealing indeed with community development. Let me give you a good living example. If you go to Free State, if you go to KZN, business people benefit by procuring from social development. School nutrition. They sell their beef, sugar beans, veggies to school nutrition, to the department. It does procure almost 30%. Let's go to KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal, they actually are feeding Mkanyakute, Majuba district,
Order.
all those districts, they actually are benefiting. What a good thing, honorable members, good South Africans, because social development actually is supporting business, supporting communities. Look at the cooperatives. Mphathiswa, indlela owenza kahle ngayo apha eGrabo. Indlela owenza ngayo kahle eDidorens. Apho unikeza i-uniform. Where were you when i-uniform given to a child? Zivesti zimbini, zi-under zimbini, zizihlangu, zi-uniform zimbini, nokudla phezulu. I was personally there. Mandinincedise izihlobo zami. Abantu abakayibambi kakuhle uba kwenziwa ntoni apha ekhaya. Apha ekhaya kukuba umntwana lo oselenikwe i-child support grant 300. Uthi awuya kwi-ECD anikezwe 15 rands per month on top of what she has been or he has been getting more. Abakhosikazi asezilalini asindwa iemele nathi ezinkuni apho umbani ungekafiki umntwana wehlisiwe emqolo. Awunophinde ubone umntwana ebelekiwe. Wabe nilungiselela wena uba bendithe 400 uzohlupheka. Ndenzela ubuvuye. Uthi hayi sencinane. Lo mntwana uye e-ECD. Uhlisiwe kunini emqolo. Amakhosikazi ahamba nje aya kwi-cooperatives ngoba abantwana behlisiwe emqolo. Yabona ke akho nto isonwabise mfoka Magwaza njengokuba usiqinisekise xa unika inkcazo kula komiti uthi inxalenye yemali ebiza kwenza o-social worker baye esikolweni abantu abafuna uba zii-social worker iye yancitshiswa. Inxalenye yayo yayoqesha aba sebepasile ukwenzela into yoba babe baninzi o-social worker.
Honorable Chair,
Kancinci
your time is
kancinci
up.
mawethu ayizange iRoma yakhiwe ngosuku olunye. Hayi siyabulela kakhulu. Bulela mphathiswa, bulela kaMagwaza, phambili siyaqhuba.
Order. Honorable members, can I once again ask you to be respectful of each other? It doesn't mean you can't interject, but I think the way we should do it should be such that it doesn't drown the speaker on the podium. Secondly, order. Secondly, I would like to advise Honorable Mbata on a matter of yesterday. I won't repeat it, but you know what I'm talking about. I think ngesizulu kukhona into ekuthiwa yingqayizivele masingayenzi ke. Andizuqhubeka. Can I now ask Honorable Masango?
Sihlalo ngaphambi kokuba ngiqale inkulumo yami bengifisa ukudlulisa umyalezo wenduduzo emindenini yalabo abahlaselwe bahlukana nempilo zabo izolo ekseni esikhungweni sokuhola eDiepkloof eSoweto. Honorable House Chair, protection against vulnerability, creating an enabling environment, provision of a comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable social development service. That is the purpose of the budget vote we are debating here today. But Honorable House Chair, the reality on the ground is far from this. The vulnerable are not protected. The bulk of the budget is allocated to the much needed grants for the elderly, people living with disability, and the children. At the time of writing this speech, the minister had still not responded to a written question asking how many grant recipients have to date fallen prey to the scourge of what has become the illegal deductions. A brief visit, though, by the DA members of parliament to the Eastern Cape recently revealed that some recipients end up not receiving anything after hundreds and thousands of rands have been deducted for airtime, electricity, loans, etc. This has gone on for years for some of these people, and this is far from being protected against vulnerability. The development service environment is neither comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable if the situation on the ground is anything to go by. The striking social workers working from a car park in the Free State, risking losing confidential client files due to lack of office space, tools of the trade, and vehicles are just a microcosm of what the social development service environment is like in Mzansi. The increasing caseloads for social workers mean they simply cannot provide adequate services to their clients, who are then further rendered vulnerable. This situation takes place when the department, in fulfilling its indicator of, and I quote, reforming and standardizing the social welfare system, close quote, goes on to say, trained social workers are crucial to a reformed and standardized system. To this end, the department continues to train the social workers and misses the crucial aspect of this process, which is to place the trained social workers. We can't speak of a reformed and standardized social welfare system in a case like this. Social workers are to social development as doctors are to the health department. Vulnerability is left to escalate to unprecedented levels, whilst the department does a half-baked job of only training the social workers. Thousands of them are sitting at home or have gone back to work at tills in supermarkets. Recent reports of illegal early childhood development centers mushrooming everywhere is an indication that this environment is not adequately monitored. Another sign that the environment is far from being integrated is recent closures of NGOs due to lack of subsidies by the department. As part of reforming the social welfare system, the department claims, rightly, that non-profit organizations are key partners providing social development services. One wonders then how key these organizations are when many of them are closing down due to non-payment of subsidies. At a time when research report after research report decries the high and escalating levels of substance abuse and gender-based violence, the department has responded, one would say rightly, by building rehabilitation centers. As we debate this budget today, some of these centers have been standing as white elephants, as planning for their operationalization has not been done. The urgency with which the scourge of gender-based violence and substance abuse should be handled is obviously not being handled. Instead, the department is running events throughout the country at high cost to the department at the expense of providing services for which the department was initially established. Coming to the entities of the department, Honorable House Chair, the National Development Agency is a serial strategy reviewer, with the Portfolio Committee having been subjected to 3 consecutive years of brand new strategy reviews with concomitant capacity building budgets running into millions. If staff have to be capacity built each time a strategy is reviewed, it means there's a huge departure from the previous year's strategy. This is taking place when the NDA seems to be narrowing the gap between what it does and what the department is doing. This is another way of wasting the taxpayers' monies.
Honorable Member, your time is up.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Sonti.
Chairperson, malunga eParlamente, abasivakasheleyo, ndiyanibulisa. Singumbutho we-Economic Freedom Fighters. Silukhaba ngawo omane uhlahlo lwabamali lwesebe lezentlalontle. Siyalukhaba okokuqala asimthembi konke umphathiswa wesebe. Mrs. Bathabile Dlamini. Ewe yena yedwa.
Honorable Member.
Usmolanyana skeletons.
Order, Honorable Sonti. The minister is not Mrs. Dlamini. She's honorable. If you don't want to say honorable, you can say Miss
That drawer,
Dlamini.
Chairperson, in that drawer. Yes. Honorable Bathabile Dlamini, wena wedwa wesmolanyana skeletons. Lo mama unomkhono ukusebenzisa imali zelisebe ukugayela ivoti umbutho wakhe iANC, akakwazi ukwahlula indima yakhe njengomphathiswa kwindima yakhe njengelungu leANC elinezithunzela zalo ekufuneka lizifihlile.
Order.
Ingakumbi lo nyaka ingunyaka welonyulo.
Honorable
Siyazi
Sonti,
ukuba
uyawazi umthetho weParlamente uba kukhona ingxelo ofuna ukuyithetha ngobume bomphathiswa uyibeka ngendlela efaneleyo eParlamente, which means a substantive motion. You have just you've cast aspersion on the minister, and I think that you should do in
Point
a
of order,
substantive
Chairperson.
motion. Honorable Mbata, I was addressing Honorable Sonti. Can you take a seat?
Bengicela
Can
ukutshela
you
nje
take
siqala
a
ukuthi
seat?
ayikho into ayishilo wrong. Iqiniso lodwa.
Can you take a seat?
Iqiniso lodwa lena.
Order, Honorable Mbata, can you take a seat? Honorable Sonti, you allege that the minister uses the funds of the department for campaigning for her organization. That is casting aspersion on the member, and you should bring that in a substantive motion. Order, order, honorable members.
Sedlule, mama.
If you have proof of that, you bring it in a substantive motion. Order, Honorable Mbata. Honorable Mbata. Honorable Mbata. Honorable Mbata. I will ask you to be taken out of the house if you continue on that behavior. Honorable Sonti, can you withdraw and bring that on a substantive motion? Can
Ingakumbi,
you withdraw that and bring it on a substantive motion?
dibeke kanjani?
Itsho ke mama uthi uyayirhoxisa uba ufuna ukuyizisa uyizise ngemotion efanelekileyo.
Dibeke kanjani mama ndicebisa?
Ithi uyayirhoxisa. Irhoxise le oyishilo ongafanele ngabe
Yeyiphi
uyibeke
kanye
ngolo
kanye le
hlobo.
irongo ndithethileyo?
Uthe,
Khanithule nina.
order, honorable members.
Awunqande.
Ndiyakunqandela uyazinqandela okwakho. Ndithe uthe wena umphathiswa usebenzisa imali ukugayela ivoti.
Oh.
Ndithi ke mama lonto uyayazi nawe ukuba kumele uyizise ngohlobo olufanelekileyo.
Okay.
Nothi ngalendlela olubeke ngayo.
Diyadrawa.
Enkosi.
Diyadrawa.
Honorable Mbata, can you please be in order?
Ingakumbi lo nyaka ingunyaka olonyulo siyazi ukuba uza kuqatsela lo mkhwa wakhe wokuhamba esiya kwindawo zabantu abahluphekileyo ebanika ukutya kubethenga yona le voti babe phofe bengabahoyanga iminyaka le. Singamthemba njani ke umuntu omnjalo ukude simnike ulawulo lwemali
Honourable House
engange-149
Chairperson, on
billion
a point of
enikwe
order.
elisebe kunyaka
Honourable-
ka-2016 to
Honourable House
2017. Okwesibini,
Mama Sonti,
Honorable
Mama
House
Ranci.
Chairperson,
Honorable member, can I take a point of order?
ngiyabonga Honorable Slalo. Kepha lomhlonishwa lo lapho uyachubeka wenda the very same thing le umtshele ukuthi akayilethe through a substantive motion. Uyachubeka uyayenda. And la le budget vote ibaluleke kakhulu kubantu base South Africa ngoba baningi bantu laba relaya kule budget yale department. Besicela ukuthi asitiphatheni kahle singemalunga eParliament siyekele ukutenda inhlekisa ebantwini base South Africa. Bantu bafuna kulalela ibudget vote. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. Honorable Mbata, what's your point of order?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chairperson. The permanent deputy.
No,
Chief Whip of
can
the
you
ANC,
address me?
She is saying law. Law is demeaning. There is no one here who's law. She is Honorable Sonti, a member of the Parliament.
Order, honorable
She
member.
must withdraw that thing.
Can you take your seat?
Yeah, she must withdraw.
Are you now the chair?
ngiyaqhubeka ma.
Honorable members.
Xesha lam.
Honorable member, ixesha lakho alizudliwa umuntu
Alright,
sigadile
enkosi.
ke. Mama uSonti, ndithe uba kunezinto ozaziyo. Umthetho weParliament uthi xa ufuna ukuzisa ezi zinto ngaphambili uzenza ngesincomo esifanekileyo benditshilo ke mama ndicela athi singaphindeli ke kulomba.
Okwesibini, yena umphathiswa akakulungelanga kwaphela ukuba
Point
abe
of order, Chair.
ngumphathiswa wesebe elibaluleke
Point of
kangaka.
order, Chairperson.
Order, honorable Mbata.
Usihlaze.
Thank you.
Uzihlaze.
ask you to rule.
Wazihlambalaza
Order
isidima
being a member.
sakhe phambi
Point
kwelizwe
order.
lonke ngexesha egqothwa ngabahlali baseBhayi kuba eyothetha
of
nabo
order, Chair.
ezintshintshile ngamanzi kaVictoria.
Order. Honorable Sonti.
Uxolo.
Honorable
Excuse me.
Sonti. Can you wait? Order.
Point of order.
Honorable members, can you please take your seats? Can you please take your seats? Honorable Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngagula, can you make your point of order?
Chairperson, honorable members, thank you very much for the opportunity. Chair, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but what I do know is that what the honorable member continues to do is to do exactly what you had advised against. She continues with what she should have submitted as a substantive motion. She is being personal. There is nothing in what she's saying which has to do with the debate, and I think that it is proper that you should protect the honorable member. If the, yes, Tool,
Honorable Bata.
Tool.
Order.
You know what? I have the floor for now, right?
Order.
I have
Honorable
the
Mbata.
floor.
Honorable Mbata, can you please be in order?
Honorable Chairperson, my point is, this thing of people,
Order. Honorable members, the member is still on a point. I've allowed your Honorable Mbata to say his say when he was asking for a point
not
of
a
order, which I'm
speech.
still going to rule on.
it's a point of order. We can't be pushed, Chair, into submission all the time, even when we are right, because we fear people who are going to be rude in a chamber. It is incorrect. Can you please correct this? Protect
Thank
the
you,
honorable
honorable member.
We can't be pushed by you all the time.
Honorable
and
member,
we-
can you please take your seat? Honorable members, can you please take your seats? Can you pull your hands down? Early on, a point of order was raised. Honorable Dlagute, you mentioned law and there was an objection on the other side. And I said I would rule. I had intervened without a point of order being made on a statement made by the member casting aspersions on the minister. I asked the member to withdraw. She withdrew. She continued. Honorable Sonti, you cannot do that by using the language as though others don't understand it. We do. You cannot say you cast aspersion on the minister and being personal. I don't want to repeat what you said, but you know what you said. And it cannot be so. This is now the second time I'm asking you to withdraw. And can I ask Honorable Dlagute to withdraw the law, even though you mentioned the name of the person afterwards? No, there is something wrong when you say law. Order. Order, honorable members. Thank you.
Sihlalo lo
Thank
hloniphekile.
you.
Sihlalo lo hloniphekile.
Yebo.
Bengicabanga ukuthi ngikhuluma Siswati, kepha ngiyahocisa njengoba usho ngoba angisilihlata njengalabanye
Ngiyakuva, ngiyabonga, mama.
Ngiyahocisa kodwa ngeSiswati uthi
Order,
that
honorable members. Order, honorable Sonti. Order, honorable Sonti. Order. Honorable members.
Hey, when
Order, honorable members. Honorable
Angazi.
Sonti. Honorable Sonti. Honorable Sonti. Kawum.
Oh.
Honorable members. Honorable members, I have not even ruled. Can you put your hands down? Can you put your hands down? The challenge is that, Mam Kawul, you canceling what you just asked me to do. You can't want a wrong to be a wrong when it's not you, when it's somebody else. We have not allowed the chair to rule and you continue to make statements. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, Mam Khaul, order. Honorable members, do you want this debate to go on or not? Can you please be in order? Mam Khaula, can you please stop it? Can you please be in order? Can you be in order? Honorable members, this is a policy debate and you need to be respectful. You cannot behave in this manner as though you are children. Actually, it's an insult to say children behave in this way. We cannot. You just cannot. Even after you have been asked, you continue to behave in a manner that is unbecoming. I think one thing we can do for ourselves is being respectful of who we are. We have got members in the gallery that are looking at the circus. You can't. You just cannot. Honorable Dlagute, can you please withdraw unconditionally?
Ngiyahoxisa sihlalo.
Thank you. Honorable Sonti, can you withdraw your statements? Ngicela uhoxise lamagama owashilo owaziyo ukuthi akufanele ngabe uwasho la ngaphandle kwesincomo esifanelekile. Cha musukuthi isho kahle nje ngomlomo uthi uyahoxisa. Ngicela uhoxise kahle.
Mama.
Mama uSonti, ngicela uhoxise.
Ndiyahoxisa ma.
Enkosi. Order, can we continue with the debate?
Elisebe ke lisebenzisa imali eningi kakhulu liqeqesha ononhlalonhle kwiuniversity ezibizayo. Kodwa abo bantu xa kunamhlanje abakasebenzi. Kwakhona imali ebekelwe bucala ukuba isetyenziswe kwicandelo lokuxhasa i-early childhood development centers ayanelanga kwaphela. Siyalazi ilizwe lethu linengxaki enkulu yabantwana abangafumani imfundiso eyaneleyo besebancinci ngoba abazali abaninzi abanazo imali ezifunwa zezi early childhood development centers. Ezingezizo ezikarhulumente azixhaswa zona. Ezilalini omama baqhutywa nje luthando lokuba babone abantwana besiza kwicreche. Njengomama onecreche kwilali yasemkhubiso eqoboqobo angazange wafumana nkxaso kwaphela kulo rhulumente iminyaka emihlanu edlulileyo. Umnqweno wethu ke si-EFF ngokuba kubekho icreche kwiwadi nganye kwilizwe ixhaswa ngokwaneleyo ngurhulumente. Xa sithe saphatha omasipala ke thina emva kwe-3 ka-August siza kuqinisekisa ukuba omasipala bethu bayakhokhela ekujongeni inkedama kwiiwadi zonke ukuqinisekisa ukuba akukho mntwana uvinjwa amathuba okufunda kuba engenabazali. Xa sisalawula omasipala thina siza kuqinisekisa ukuba ii-social workers zikho kuzo zonke iindawo ngokwaneleyo kubantu bakamasipala kwaye sisebenzele ukunceda bonke abantu abayimilwelwe, imbedlenge nabahlolokazi. Xa sithe salawula thina singomasipala siza kuqinisekisa ukuba senza umqulu walo lonke ulutsha olunezidanga iiyunivesithi nakwii-colleges olunganamsebenzi. Siqale imigushuzo yokuba basebenzise oko bakufundeleyo kube lulutho ekwakheni babe bebhatalwa. Siza kulawula omasipala abaza kuba nenkathalo engummangaliso kwindawo ezihlala abantu abasebenza emigodini abangahoywanga nakancinci ngurhulumente kunye neenkampani zemigodi. Abantu abafana nabantu basemarikana abaphila.
Order, Honorable Sonti, your time is up.
Phelile ngoba nilidlile ixesha lam. Andinixhasi. Andinixhasi. Enkosi.
Order. Honorable Fanemeve.
Thanks. Thanks for that.
Order. Order. Honorable members. Honorable members, Honorable Sonti, can you please allow other members to make their presentation? I think, Honorable Sonti, the things you said in this House, if you want to say them on the substantive motion, you should do so. I repeat once again, no member should cast aspersions on others when you cannot substantiate your motion. And once again, I appeal to all of you. Can we please be respectful? If we can't respect ourselves, let's respect those who have brought us here. Mam Kawul, I think what you are doing, unfortunately, you can't. You just cannot. Uzehlisa isithunzi. Uzehlisa isithunzi. Honorable Sonti, do you remember that when the chair speaks, you cannot chat back? I've actually raised this thing, and I'm actually asking you to refrain from it if you still want to participate in this debate. Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson, Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, I want to say from the outset that I was quite pleased that you spend a lot of your time on gender-based violence and talking to some of those issues. But I must also express my concern that recently when you faced a revolting crowd in Port Elizabeth, you had afterwards threatened them with violence as well, the most vulnerable people in our society. And I'm disappointed because you are the custodian of the rights of the most vulnerable people in our society. But that being said, Honourable Chairperson, this debate comes only a few days after South Africans celebrated Freedom Day. 22 years on, and we are inundated with negative statistics. Life is hard, and it's getting harder. As we sit here, the children of Manenberg are living in fear of being shot or killed. Because of gang violence, many of them are not going to school. We have failed them. The children of Manenberg are the next generation of children whose stories will be written in our statistics. Stats SA recently indicated that black youths today are less skilled than their parents are. Former President Thabo Mbeki has labeled this a national emergency. So, Honourable Minister, all social indicators are pointing in the wrong direction. The needs of the most vulnerable in our society is always critical and urgent, leaving no room for politics or failure. But the Honourable Minister is also the President of the ANC Youth League, so politics is inevitable and shortcomings are present. So allow me to speak to a few of the small skeletons, as our Minister would say, in our government's closet. Firstly, the IFP believes that not enough has been done to ensure the administrative integrity of our grant system. 19 million disappeared recently in fake foster grants from just one SASSA office in KwaZulu-Natal. One. That money was allocated to alleviate child poverty, but where is it now? And where is the money that is deducted illegally on a monthly basis from the most vulnerable citizens in our society? The IFP recently pleaded with the President to establish a commission of inquiry as fraud syndicates are robbing our grandparents and the vulnerable. And I'm surprised, Minister, that you didn't give this any mention in your speech. No matter the size of the budget, these issues will affect the credibility of the budget. The money squandered can no longer be used where it's needed. And thus we go without sufficient number of treatment centers across our country, leaving those who want to get help for substance abuse without anywhere to go. This is a crisis that needs far greater focus and effort. We also have to make do without the requisite number of social workers. And I heard you saying, Minister, that plans are in place to absorb more social workers. But the fact of the matter is that upon graduation, we are unable to employ social workers. And they are desperately needed because the society that we've got today is facing a crisis. And therefore, your one social worker per ward dream remains a dream deferred. I'm also glad that the Honourable Minister of State Security is here today, sitting there, because I think once we start labeling NGOs as enemies of the state, NGOs that provide vital services on behalf of the state as enemies of the state, then we're treading a very difficult path. And I think we must ask ourselves today, why is it that we come here every year talking about gender-based violence, but we've made no progress? Each year, we've got the same number of people affected by gender-based violence. We talk about call centers. It's fine that we're making a call center available to people, but how many people are aware of this call center? And if this is a caring government, why do millions of schoolgirls who cannot afford sanitary pads go without them? If we can provide condoms, why can't we provide sanitary pads? Colleagues, in conclusion, our country deserves leadership that respects the rights of our citizens. What we don't need is leaders that would offer food parcels in return for votes, which is like charging voters for their votes. What we don't need
Honourable member, your time has expired.
What we don't need are leaders who would attack
Honourable
the public
Kubisa.
protector for their own shortcomings. We must put politics aside and prioritize our people. Thank you.
Sihlalo namalunga ahloniphekile lendlu angithathele lithuba ukuba ngibonge sihlalo. Oqala nje thina njenge National Freedom Party sifisa ukuba sikhalele ihlobo imindeni yabantwana bethu ababenengozi abebefunda eNyuvesi yaseWits. Kube into ebhlungu sithi ke siyezwelana nezihlobo umndeni nabangani. Okokuqala ngqongqoshe sisho ukuthi thina njenge National Freedom Party sibuka lo mnyango njengomnyango kufanele ukuba ube nobuvi ube nokukhusela. It must be a safety net that will catch people who have fallen on the hard times, and for many the only shield against hunger and destitution. Kodwa isimo esibuka ngayo indlela okuxhashazwa ngayo imali ikakhulukazi kusasa kusiphatha kabi njengoba ngqongqoshe uyazi ukuthi endaweni nje yasenseleni kulahleke ama-millions amaningi emali kahulumeni engabe isize abantu bakithi abahlwempu nabampofu. Asazi ukuthi iCommission izophuthuma kangakanani kodwa sibona kuqhubeka indawo eziningi ezihlukahlukene. Leso simo sidala ukuthi abantu bengasizakala. Okunye siqondayo futhi ngqongqoshe ukuthi njengoba kunesimo esiphezulu se-rape soku-abuse kwabantu kune-HIV AIDS siqonda kahle futhi ukuthi umnyango ufanele usebenzisane neminye iminyango a kind of a multi-sectorial approach ukuze kulungiswe lesi simo ngoba inkulu kakhulu ingcindezi bese kuba khona le ama-drugs and substance abuse yimpi ke leyo ebalulekile kufanele silwe kakhulu ngemva kuba sithola inkululeko ngoba sibayaya kuma-rehabilitation centers kodwa bebuyele emuva okuyinto ecaca kahle ukuthi kufanele siyisebenze silwe nayo ukuze izingane zethu zikwazi ukuba ngabaholi kusasa. Yimpe esibhekene nayo enkulu kakhulu ezweni lakithi leyo le yama-drugs and substance abuse okuchaza ukuthi nasey'ndaweni zasemakhaya ngqongqoshe kubalulekile kube nama-centers lapho laba abasha bethu bezosizakala khona ukuze nabo babe utho kusasa. Kodwa kakhulu kunakho konke kusho ukuthi simangala kakhulu ukuthi kunofuduko lokuhamba kwama-social worker yakwamanye amazwe okuchaza ukuthi kufanele ilungise indaba ama-social worker ukuthi namaholo abo phela inyuswe. Sidinga ama-psychologist, sidinga ama-psychotherapists nokunye okufanele umnyango usebenze kabanzi ukuthi ikwazi ukubamumatha ukuze besize esimene esibhekene naso njengomnyango. Now, to enable the department to execute its mandate of poverty alleviation and social protection, 149 billion has been allocated for the 2016-2017 financial year. Funds for social grants in the amount of 140 billion have been budgeted for social grants, which represent 94% of the total departmental budget. The National Freedom Party welcomes this prioritization of funds as poverty is widespread in our country, and social grants have made a huge difference in alleviating poverty. But sisho kahle ukuthi ama-social grant ewodwa ngeke asilekelele. Kufanele kube namathuba emisebenzi ashesha entsheni ukuze ikwazi kakhulukazi kubantu bakithi ukuze bathole ukudla okunomsoco njengoba kunesifo sikagawulana. We are however concerned about the extraordinary amount or high cost of administering social grants. 7 billion has been allocated to Program 3, of which 6.8 billion is dedicated to social grants administration sub-program. Funding in this program is transferred to SASSA for its operational costs as well as for administering social grant. Despite this enormous amount spent on the administration of social grants, we continue to have a situation where grant beneficiaries are experiencing serious challenges when they try to report illegal deductions from their social grants.
Honourable Kubisa, your time is up.
Having said that, Honourable Chairperson, njenge-National Freedom Party sithi sinakho ukuyixhasa kodwa kulungiselwe izinto esikhulume ngazo sibona ezibalulekile ukuze abantu bakuthi baphume ebubhwini ezweni lakithi. Siyabonga.
Honourable Deputy Minister.
House Chair, honorable ministers, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 2016 is a midterm for the current administration. It provides the ANC-led government with an opportunity to evaluate our social contract with our people. It's also a year in which ordinary citizens have an opportunity to reflect on the impact and progress made thus far. As we continue on the path of realizing our shared vision, we need to heed the call in the National Development Plan to create opportunities for every citizen and resident to work as part of the collective in building our future. We need to ask ourselves to what extent we have, as government, as parliament, and as ordinary men and women over the past years, responded to the social development agenda. Chairperson, honorable members, please join us as we pack our bags and continue our journey from 2016-2017. On disability, we committed last year to the completion of the new disability rights policy. Cabinet has approved the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities, which was launched in all accessible formats by President Zuma on the 10th of March 2016, and it is currently in operation. The policy informs the manner in which we design, plan, budget, implement, and report on our programs and services, and focuses on strengthening recourse mechanisms for persons with disabilities and their families. We will be seized with the coordination and implementation of the new policy. This includes the development of instruments such as the Disability Inequality Index, as well as undertaking a roadshow to brief provincial executive councils for concurrence and to ensure provinces understand the policy. We have adopted a practical approach to implementation. We will be piloting the policy directives on selected sites across the spectrum of government work. This will enable us to measure impact on the lives of persons with disabilities and their families. We take this opportunity to thank MTN SA Foundation, the Airports Company South Africa, that continue to partner with us and actually assist us to access more resources without leaving out the Japanese International Cooperation Agency that continue through international relations support our programs. On HIV and AIDS, honorable members, the comprehensive strategy on HIV and AIDS focusing on prevention has been finalized. We have also commenced with the development of the Care for a Carer program, launched in partnership with the South African National AIDS Council, the Sex Worker HIV Prevention Strategy. Getting to zero is very near. We will be elevating interventions targeting at young women and girls with the continued implementation of our Zazi program, the Rise Clubs, in partnership with men and boys through Brothers for Life, Soul City, the Center for Communication Impact. The minister have already spoken on gender violence, but it's important for me to add that we continue to roll out the White Door Centers of Hope in communities to minimize secondary victimization for the victims. Chairperson, the burden of alcohol abuse remains. We acknowledge the burden as it is the entry to the many challenges that we have socially. The implementation, evaluation, and adoption of the National Drug Master Plan 2013-17 is work in progress, and we have combined the National Strategic Plan on HIV and AIDS and the National Drug Master Plan to develop a combined intervention strategy which will get us to zero. We are on course with the completion of the drug rehabilitation centers. I wish to indicate that we have already, out of the 6, handed over 1 that is specializing with children in Nelson Mandela Bay. We have completed a national audit of all our halfway houses, registered and unregistered treatment centers for drugs, and we continue to be committed to ensuring that the minimum norms and standards are actually developed. We'll continue to strengthen the Central Drug Authority as the entity that will help us to fight the scourge of drugs. We have reviewed and are strengthening population development units in provinces, and we hope, honorable members, in your committees, you will utilize the research that comes out of this unit. We hope that this work will be utilized to inform planning and program development. Chairperson, Last year, we indicated that on behalf of Minister Batabile Dlamini, we have the honor to chair the African Union Committee of Ministers on Health, Population and Drug Control. We've indicated that we will be establishing the Africa Disease Control Center. We are pleased to indicate that process has been finalized. The first Africa Center for Disease Control has been inaugurated by the heads of states and is currently in operation. And once again, the department will continue to ensure the establishment of these sub-regional centers in all 5 regions of Africa. We've established the African, we will, Chairperson, honorable members, allow me once more to commit my energies, experiences, abilities to build an ANC-led South Africa that belongs equally to all who live in it, putting poor and vulnerable households first in decisions and discussions we take, and affirming those experiencing compounded marginalization in everything we do will have immediate and direct impact on reducing inequality. Never again, honorable members, should we experience and witness the senseless killing and persecution of people living with albinism, as we did with the murder of Tandazile, Mpunza, and many others. People with albinism are part of the rainbow that makes our nation, and therefore, united in our diversity, they have the right to be protected, embraced, seen, heard, and understood by all of us. Allow me to express my sincere thanks to Minister Batabile Dlamini, the sisterhood, the leadership that she grants me every day. I thank Acting Director General Ubabu Magwaza and team from the department for the support and for enabling us to do our work. To thank my team in the Office of the Deputy Minister, led by Machuto Mutumi, to thank my family and my husband, who works as my guide also, for the support and enabling me to do the work that I do. To thank Umamumeli Vilagasi for leading the National Development Agency, and thank Umamu Virginia Peterson for the support that she has given. Chairperson, moving forward is where we are. Poverty can never be permanent. HIV can never be permanent. Drugs can never be permanent. Together, achieving and looking to build a South Africa that is free of drugs and HIV remains our commitment. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister of Social Development. I will now call upon Honorable SP Zoledi. Thank you.
Mandibulele sihlalo. Sihlalo phambi koba ndiqhubeka ngespeech sam ndibone ukuba kunyanzelekile ukuba dithethe amazwi ayewathethwa ngupresident wethu odlulileyo upresident Mbeki. Lamazwi ndifuna ukuwabhekisa kuminister. Mandiwafunde ngalendlela. Upresident Mbeki wathi kwintetho yakhe yesizwe ngomnye unyaka, when you are tasked with the responsibility of fetching water in the river for our people, when you get to the river, do not listen to the music of the frogs. Close quote. Mandibulise kwisizwe ngokupheleleyo, ndibulise kwizitho zalendlu ibalulekileyo, ndibulise kumanene namanenekazi akhona, ndibulise nakwizitho zekomiti ye-social development. Umgaqo siseko waseMzantsi Afrika unyathelela uba wonke umuntu unelungelo lokuxhamla kwimpilo engcono nekhuselekileyo yokuhlala nokuba akananto, ulihlwempu makakhuseleke yena nesizukulwana sakhe. Urhulumente makasebenzise ukhono alalo ekupasiseni imithetho ezakuthi ibangele ukuphumelela ezizincwangciso namalungelo afana nentlalo engcono ebantwini. Ngoko ke lempilo ingcono iza kubangela ukuba kungabikho mntu waseMzantsi Afrika uhlelelekileyo. Ibalulekile kuthi ukwenzela ukuba silwe le ntlupheko ilikhonco ukusuka emzalini ukuya kwisizukulwana sakhe. Indlala nentlupheko kunye nokungalingani kwabantu ngasemalini ibachaphazela kakhulu abantu abamnyama. Isicwangciso sophuhliso lwelizwe, lento siyibiza ukuba yi-National Developmental Plan 2030 kwakunye nento esibiza ukuba yi-medium strategic framework iyasibonisa ukuba ukhuselo ngokwemo yentlalo lungenza xa sijonga ukuhluma koqeqesho olunokubangela abantu baqeshwe. Ngoko ke lento esiyibiza ngokuba yi-social security ibalulekile kakhulu ukunqanda intlupheko nokukhusela abantu kwimeko yasezimalini ezimaxongo. Modulasetulo, African National Congress ka 2007 mane Polokwane ile ya nka qeto ya hore ho lokela ho netefatsa hore tokomane ya tokoloho ke yona motheo ha re buisana ka ho tlisa diphetoho setjhabeng. Re le African National Congress re ile ra nka qeto ka hore comprehensive social security e fana ka mokgwa o phethahetseng wa ho fedisa bofuma le tlhokeho ya mesebetsi. Re lokela ho theha tsamaiso e tlamang letlwele la ho beha meja fatshe le kenyeletsang dihlopha tse fumanang lekeno le tlase. Re ile ra boela ra qeta hore ditjhelete tsa thuso tsa bana di atolose hanyenyane ho ya dilemong tse 18. Mme dilemo tsa ho fumana tjhelete ya pension ya boqheku di bewe ho fihlela ho dilemo tse 60. Mangaung ka 2012 re ile ra hatella hore mmuso o lokela ho eketsa bokgoni ba ona ka ho netefatsa hore ho potlakiswe ho kenwa tshebetsong ha comprehensive social security strategy. Mona ha ANC ha re etsa ditshepiso tseo re di etsang bathong re ya di phethisa e re ko bontshe hore re di phethisa ka tsela e jwang. Chairperson, number of social grants recipients in South Africa has increased over the past 20 years, from an estimated 4 million in 1994 to 16.9 million by September 2015. Grants amount have increased and ages of those who qualified have been extended. Child support grant has increased the age of recipients to 18 years, and the Department of Social Development has informed us that it is considering increasing it to 23 years due to the number of child-headed households. Siyakuba. Currently, we have 11.9 million recipients of child support grants, receiving 350 per month. For disability grant, we have 1.1 million recipients, an important step towards advancing the right of differently able people. Cabinet has approved the white paper on the rights of persons with disability. It is out there. Abakwazi ufunda, mabahambe bayoyifunda. Grants for older persons who we have increased it to 3.1 million, getting 1,500 a month. You must note now, both men and women aged 60 and above are eligible to access this service. Foster care grant has increased to 533,000. Grant in aid, we've got 600,000 recipients. This grant is given to those who are giving care to older persons and disabled people. Social relief of distress is a temporary grant awarded to people in dire need. It may be paid out in various circumstances. Ayibhatalwa njengoba besitsho uba siyibhatala xa kusenziwa i-by-elections kuphela. Ayikho njalo. Including to people awaiting payment of an approved social grant or who have affected by disaster, such as flooding. Last week, Social Development was here in Cape Town because the people were affected by flooding. Bekungekho by-elections, as they are saying. The World Bank in 2014 states that the poorest in South Africa have benefited tremendously from social spending programs. Cash grants and free basic services lift the incomes of some 3.6 million individuals who were earning above $125 per day. We have increased that to $250 a day. It's not me, it's World Bank that says that. Therefore, child support grants and old patient makes the largest impact on poverty reduction. The World Bank knows that our fiscal policy is progressive and works to reduce inequality. South Africa has managed to reduce Gini coefficient on income of income from 0.77 before taxes and social spending to 0.59 after the impact of the fiscal intervention. In 2015, the World Bank reiterated their main finding that inequality in South Africa is not as bad as some in this house are saying. It also concluded that there's a lot of redistribution that is taking place in South Africa. Chairperson, without social grants, the level of poverty will be much more worse. Social grants are essential for lowering economic risk for the most vulnerable in society. We have positive efforts to improve the administration and payments of social grants. SASSA has addressed several challenges that existed in the cash-based system that preceded it. However, there are challenges that needed to be addressed, such as ghost beneficiaries, maladministration, fraud by civil servants, and unauthorized deduction from grant beneficiaries. We acknowledge and appreciate the effort done by government in establishing a ministerial task team. The task team has found a number of issues and practices which were in contravention with the Social Assistance Act. The department has briefed us with progress in regard to illegal deductions. We accept the explanation given to the committee that the matter is before the Constitutional Court. What happened to the rule that says you cannot discuss anything that is sub judice? In the Free State already, Minister, we are glad to report that they have already made arrests in connection with the illegal deductions.
Honorable Member, you're left with 1 minute.
Thank you. In conclusion, Chairperson, the NDP affirms social security as a basic right and that a human rights approach to social protection is required. The state, in realizing this right, will be underpinned by a developmental social welfare approach with a focus from individuals to families. There should be a renewed focus on delivering these services in rural areas, ensuring that government footprints is extended to all. To this end, the number of poor and marginalized South Africans that benefited from our policies continue to increase. We
Honourable
support
Member,
the
your
budget.
time has
Asina Mona,
expired.
Asina Nzondo, sizayivotela i-ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Member Lady. I will now call upon Honorable Member C.N. Majeke.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members. Poverty, food insecurity, unemployment, diseases and homelessness have a direct bearing in a relentless vicious cycle on family and societal dysfunction. At the core of social development are all these key challenges that characterizes our communities to this day. Not less than 40,000 young people are found in our jails because, amongst others, they have resorted to crime and abuse, drug abuse. We need to join hands with many other role players in our endeavor to building a caring nation born out of caring families who are in themselves made up of caring members of a family. The state must play a significant facilitation role. We have an act that provides, The religious groups, traditional leadership, and non-governmental organizations must play a significant role as well in molding and building a caring human being. The historic contribution that they have made and continue to make will help us address this challenge. Many a times, there's a feeling of desperate and hopelessness for families dealing with drugs and alcohol abuse in their homes. There is a need for a holistic approach that deals with the associated hacks and hang-ups that lead the user down that destructive path. In South Africa, the trafficking of adults and children has grown immensely. This growth has been linked to several social issues, two of which are unemployment and poverty. Hence, most of the alleged victims are people who come from underprivileged homes. To fight this scourge, government, working with non-governmental organizations
has a greater role to play in eliminating human trafficking. Also, those people who are stealing elderly people's grants, Abo Machonisa and the lot. We have an act that provides mechanism for eradication of modern-day slavery, and we must use it without fear or favor in defense of the most vulnerable. The work by the Siavuna non-profit making organization in the rural communities of Ugu district must give us hope that working together as communities, we can indeed provide solutions to hunger. This organization helps communities to produce organic fresh produce, to alleviate rural poverty by creating hundreds of home gardens that provide food security, market profits, and much needed social development. There are approximately 600 smallholder farmers in this program, of which 84% are women. They feed themselves and their families first and then sell the excess. These are the kind of sustainable initiatives that we must adopt. Through you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, the community of Umhlonhlo Ward 17 women, which are led by Umama Ndongeni, who is a head woman there, they have sent me a message that if you could please just give them a date, they would request that you pay them a visit to see what they are doing in that community. Honorable Chairperson, United Democratic Movement supports the budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Majeke. I will now call upon Honorable Member A.D. Alberts.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, South Africa has one of the most extensive social development programs in the world. It is remarkable, but it could also be alluding to a pending disaster in the future. While providing a social safety net is of the utmost importance and a basic human right, the vast scope of the system is quite ironically also a very strong indicator of the ANC's failure to manage the economy properly in order to create sustainable jobs. In that sense, this system, while laudable, is also unsustainable. National Treasury predicts that by 2028 there will be 18.5 million people on social grants. Indien ons ekonomiese groei klein bly, dankzij die ANC en Jacob Zuma, sal die regering binnekort net die salarisse van staatsamptenare en maatskaplike toelaas kan bekostig. Sekere ekonome het geprojekteer dat hierdie fiskale afgrond rondom 2026 sal plaasvind. Dit was egter voor Nenegate en daar word nou opnuut voorspel dat die regering daardie perk baie vroeër gaan bereik. 'n Kredietafgradering na rommelstatus lyk ook onafwendbaar. Die Reservebank dui aan dat die moontlikheid daarvoor is medium tot hoog. If either a downgrade to junk status or later the fiscal cliff appears, this government will have to make painful decisions. Do you stop all other government programs in order to pay salaries for a bloated bureaucracy and keep people enslaved on the drip feed of social grants? Or do you start shrinking the government and enable people to become entrepreneurs? The fact is that the ANC must make drastic changes to its economic policies by freeing up the economy, if it is to ensure the creation of more jobs and more income in the future, which will take people off the social welfare system for good. And that should be the objective. Hierin speel die maatskaplike welsynstelsel self 'n belangrike rol. Diegene wat afhanklik is van die stelsel moet self ook leer hoe om verantwoordelikheid te neem vir hulle kinders en hulle kinders se toekoms. Dit beteken, anders as wat tans die geval is, moet kindertoelaas gekoppel word aan bewyse dat kinders wel skool bywoon. Waar daar tekens is dat 'n persoon kinders het bloot ten einde toegang tot die toelaas te kry, moet ingegryp word deur maatskaplike werkers. Ouers moet ook bewys dat hulle besig is om werk te soek of hulle self beter te bekwam. Die regering behoort meer te doen om programme te skep waar werklooses gratis opgelei kan word in ambagte waar 'n tekort bestaan. Op hierdie wyse speel beide die gewer en ontvanger 'n positiewe rol om die probleem van afhanklikheid aan te spreek. Minister, more focus must also be paid to family planning in poor communities. South Africa's population is already too large and is growing faster due to the influx of illegal immigrants that remain permanently in the country. We also need certainty regarding the illegal deductions from SASSA payments that is happening at the moment. Minister, we realize that you are not in charge of finance, trade and industry or economic development, but given the importance of the economic sustainability of your programs, You do need to engage with your fellow ministers in this regard. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Alberts. I will now call upon Honorable Member Dudley.
Thank you. Thank you. The department's mission to ensure the provision of comprehensive, integrated, sustainable and quality social development services and create an enabling environment for sustainable development in partnership with all those committed to building a caring society necessitates reforming the social welfare sector and services to deliver better results, improving the provision of early childhood development, deepening social assistance, and strengthening integrated community development interventions. Despite the increase in social grants, which is above the inflation rate, the drought has resulted in a significant increase in food prices. The ACDP calls on the department to strengthen and fast-track the implementation of credible food security programs to cushion the impact on the poor. The department reported that it had set a target to achieve 100% absorption of social workers by 2019, and this will, however, necessitate a trade-off and the utilizing of funds for the social worker scholarship to first ensure that social workers being trained are actually absorbed. The shortage of social workers is an urgent matter, and the ACDP calls on the department to continue to prioritize putting social workers in the field urgently. The ACDP is concerned about reports that services to South African rape victims are being curtailed. Services are already woefully insufficient, and now, due to an unintended consequence of a foreign aid cut, they are under even greater strain. The Global Fund to Fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria extends to services that non-government organizations, NGOs, offer to rape victims. And this month, the Global Fund is reported to be limiting its fund to areas that have recorded the highest prevalence of HIV. These areas do not necessarily overlap with those where high rates of rape are reported, because rape frequently carries the risk of infection with HIV. This means survivors of rape may not have support to complete their course of post-exposure prophylaxis. The ACDP calls on the department to ensure services to rape victims previously dependent on international donor funding and vulnerable to donor policy trends and changes are adequately budgeted for. South Africa has made strides in lowering child mortality, and the rollout of social grants is credited with having contributed to this. As social grant beneficiaries have increased, this has contributed to raising the living standards. The ACDP is, however, concerned that constituents are still reporting that money on their SASSA pension cards is being fraudulently removed. Honourable Minister, we know this is being dealt with, but sadly people are having difficulty reporting and getting info on it because they say phone lines are not being answered, and that is unacceptable. The ACDP applauds attention being brought to the huge societal benefits of fathers being present in their children's lives and the negative impact of absent fathers on children and families. South Africa has one of the highest rates of father absence in the world, with 1 out of 2 fathers being absent from the lives of their children. The ACDP calls on this House and the Social Development Department to support
Honourable
the Labour
Member,
Law
you're left
amendment
with
bill
1
proposed
minute.
by the ACDP. The bill deals with leave and also provides for adoption and surrogacy leave, parental leave and adoption and surrogacy leave. The ACDP will support this budget, which must deliver on a very challenging mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Dudley. I will now call upon Honourable Member K. de Kock.
Honourable Chairperson, members of Parliament, guests in the gallery. Jobs for the unemployed, and more famously, a chicken in every pot, were political slogans that were used in the 1930s in America. Political slogans that can just as well be used in South Africa today, a country where 8.4 million people are unemployed and approximately 17 million people receive social grants. Dit is spesifiek die 17 miljoen mense wat die sosiale toelaas ontvang en spesifiek die 12 miljoen kinders wat die 350 kindertoelaag ontvang wat die fokus is van hierdie toespraak. 94% van hierdie departement se begroting word gespandeer aan sosiale toelaas. En alhoewel 140 biljoen rand soos baie geld klink, is dit eintlik heeltemal te min. Kinders wat die kindertoelaag ontvang, vorm gewoonlik deel uit van groter gesinne wat bestaan uit vroue. So byvoorbeeld is 'n algemene scenario in Suid-Afrika 'n gesin van 5 wat bestaan uit 'n ouma wat nog nie oud genoeg is om die ouderdomspensioen te ontvang nie, haar 2 dogters wat werkloos is en hulle kinders wat die kindertoelaag ontvang. Met ander woorde 'n gesin van 5 wat 'n lewe maak met R700. Nou 'n basiese voedsame kosmandjie vir 'n gesin van 5 kos R3,585. Met ander woorde, hierdie gesin kan nie eers aan hulle mees basiese voedingsbehoeftes voldoen nie, om nie eers te praat van die res nie. En dis regtig belangrik om te onthou dat wanvoeding permanente agterstande by kinders veroorsaak. As ons hierdie kindertoelaag aansienlik sou verhoog, kan ons hierdie situasie vermy en kan ons ook die positiewe impak wat hierdie kindertoelaag het op kinders in terme van hulle gesondheid, in terme van opvoeding en in terme van hulle gedrag verhoog. The fact that this is not done and the child grant is kept so low is indicative of the ANC's true and uncaring nature, and that they themselves believe the many myths around the child grant. Myths such as it increases pregnancy, it increases dependency, and the money is wasted. It is not. It has been repeatedly disproven by social researchers.
Honourable
It is
Member, 1 minute left.
Most importantly, the ANC wants us to believe that there is not enough money to increase the child grant. There is enough money. The money is being wasted. It is spent on Kandla. It is spent on programs that don't have an impact. It is spent on lavish lifestyles. And the Guptas, most importantly, therefore, the DA will be moving for significant grant increases in the midterm budget. In a country where unemployment has become a permanent condition, grant increases are necessary.
Order.
It is not to take away the focus from economic development and job
Order.
creation, but to augment it. Because
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
children are starving today, and the minister should cry for those children next time.
I will now call upon Honourable Member B.L. Abrams. Order.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members, gallery guests, comrades and friends. Honourable Chairperson, the ANC support the Budget 17 of the Social Development. I would like to quote our former late President Nelson Mandela, open quote, "Each of us as citizens has a role to play in creating a better world for our children," close quote. I would like to quote our former late President Nelson Mandela. Honourable Chairperson, former late President Nelson Mandela was a gracious person who unselfishly donated half of his salary to the poor children, and beyond that, on receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, gave a portion of his prize money to help 3 children, as he wanted all children to feel loved and have a better future. Government has identified early childhood development as a key focus area to improve the basic education and care for all our children in South Africa. The ANC resolved in 2007 to develop a comprehensive strategy on early childhood development. The 2007-2012 ANC policy conferences agreed that the ECD needs to be strengthened and access to its needs to be expanded. The 2012 policy conference noted that the developmental needs of children and youth need to receive priority. It resolved to develop mechanisms at the early childhood development level in order to be able to detect the needs and challenges of a child in an early age. Early childhood development is significant to the consciousness of the National Development Goals of reducing poverty and inequality. The significance is documented in the National Development Plan, Vision 2030. They chart a development vision for South Africa, calling for the writing of a new story that places ECD at its center. The NDP further puts early quality on childhood development as a top priority for the country to improve the quality of education and the long-term prospects of future generations and society as a whole. Over the past 20 years, the ANC government has made meaningful progress in expanding access to ECD programs. the number of children accessing ECD services has increased steadily over the years to 1,493,015 to date, from 26,500 registered ECD centers nationwide. Of these, 937,000 enjoy an ECD government subsidy, which is 15 Rand per child per day for 264 days of an ECD attendance each year, giving them important access to meals, stimulating toys, and secure an environment to spend their days. The ECD conditional grant, amounting to 812 million Rand, has been allocated for the 2017-18 and 2018-19 financial years to expand the ECD subsidy to poor children in registered ECD programs. This will also help to improve the conditionally registered ECD centers to meet the basic requirements in order to become fully registered, so we can increase registration of ECD centers and programs, as well as the number of children subsidized. The subsidized amount will also be increased from 15 Rand to 16 Rand per child for 264 days across all provinces. This is an ANC government that cares for its children and its citizens. To date, government spends over 1.8 billion Rand on ECD, benefiting 748,768 children throughout the country. Over 1.5 million children access ECD from the 26,000 registered ECD programs. Voorsitter, die Departement van Gemeenskapontwikkeling het 'n landwyd audit gedoen op vroeë kinderontwikkelingsdienste gedurende 2013 en 2014 begrotingjaar. Die uitslag van die audit het betoon dat daar 'n nood is vir spesifieke praktiseerders op 'n vroeë kinderontwikkeling. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC remains committed to the fight against substance and drug abuse within our communities. The utilization of such substances has continued to impact negatively on the type of society we seek to build. Substance abuse is a social ill that hampers the attainment of the central task of social transformation. Substance abuse has a negative social impact on our communities. The ANC seeks to provide social cohesion and stable communities, and the fight against substance abuse is fundamental to the communities that the ANC seeks to create. Given the magnitude of this social problem, the fight against substance abuse remains a collective effort. The central objective of the ANC policy seeks to, amongst other things, ensure social cohesion. The ANC government consolidates partnerships across society to strengthen social cohesion and ensure that our nation achieves the values of a caring society. The ANC government will fight against social ills in society and will campaign against substance abuse. South Africa's Drug Watch intervention has been launched in Gauteng with the aim of clamping down on drug use. The program was relaunched in Alexandra, where the South African Police Services has announced plans to improve surveillance of drug syndicates. The South African Police Services have urged the community to work with them by reporting drug dealers and even officers who may be assisting them. The ANC government is intensifying its fight against substance abuse. The ANC government is making progress in the area of treatment of users. 2 treatment centers have been completed, one in Limpopo and one in the Eastern Cape. Land has been secured for the construction of treatment centers in the Free State, Northwest, and the Northern Cape Province. The Central Drug Authority capacitated 14 national government departments on the National Drug Plan. Furthermore, the plan was presented in Gauteng and Eastern Cape provincial legislatures to seek political buy-in and enhance implementation. The provincial forums in various provinces, together with other local drug action committees, were trained to strengthen implementation to the NDP. All these achievements contributed towards the realization of Outcome 2, a long and healthy life for all South Africans, and Outcome 3, all people in South Africa are safe and feel free. Challenges include inadequate allocation of resources to the CDA to implement the NDP, changes in platforms of abuse, increasing incidents of substance abuse, and associated social ills, and no baseline data against which to measure the impact of intervention. The development of master plans by provinces, for instance, the Western Cape province does not have one. Municipalities see the management of local master plans as unfounded mandates, and this creates a challenge. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, social cohesion is significant to building and sustaining strong and cohesive families and communities. Let us continue to fight the scourge of substance abuse because it is the potential to challenge our part of creating a South Africa inspired by the values of development and human solidarity. Chairperson, South Africa is indeed a better place before 1994. The ANC leads, the ANC live. Everybody must go out, and especially Eldorado Park, vote ANC. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Abrams. I will now call upon Honorable Member Wilson.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Department of Social Development has become the department of bigger Nyana skeletons, not smaller Nyana skeletons. And it has come at the cost of the poor in South Africa. This ministry spent 12 million rand on travel last year. That equates to 1 million rand per month. The minister has not responded to written questions for an explanation of these costs. It is unfathomable that in the midst of an economic crisis in South Africa and with the rural poor unable to survive, that 1 million rand per month on first-class travel and the luxury of living in five-star hotels, feasting on caviar and expensive whiskies can even be considered. Delegates were flown from Johannesburg and Cape Town to the NGO summit in Durban, November last year. Flights which could have been purchased from as low as 500 rand cost 8,000 rand per ticket. Over 96 million was spent on local travel in this ministry. This is the equivalent of 8 million rand a month, or 270,000 rand per day. 270,000 rand per day on travel. I ask you, and the poor sat home and suffered. There are currently 8.3 million unemployed South Africans. The crowning insult to the unemployed was the presentation by the National Development Agency to the Portfolio Committee.
Honourable members.
The NDA mandate is to carry out projects aimed at meeting the development needs of the poor and strengthening the capacities of CSOs involved in direct service provision to poor communities. These create jobs and keep food insecurity at bay. They are under-budgeted in their requirements by 290 million rand. The 292 million shortfall will be funded via the provincial legislatures on a gentleman's agreement, according to the NGO. In fact, the NDA has advised us that they will have a shortfall of 922 million over the next 3-year period. Chairperson, I ask you, how can this be possible? At a time when 19,000 jobs a quarter are being lost, an opportunity for this government to make a difference, and this department has been ignored. The Minister of Social Development cannot tell us that she gives 1 iota for the poor. They must vote for change. This budget is an insult, not just to the poor, but to the intelligence of this portfolio. It is nothing more than a cut and paste of the previous budget with minor increases for inflation. Absolutely no consideration has been given to the current climate in South Africa, of the plight of the poor, or to a realistic strategy for dealing with our crises. I wonder if the minister even saw this budget.
Honourable members.
Perhaps she was too busy attacking the public protector, defending a broken president, and making absurd comments in the Women's League. The new in-house rehab centre in Polokwane has not opened, despite being completed over a year ago, because operational costs were not budgeted for. Suffer those who need help with addictions. They must vote for change. NGOs providing statutory services through their social workers,
1 minute left,
referred to them by the courts, are closing. Their funding has been stopped or not increased in years, making them unable to stay afloat. Court files are gathering dust in provincial offices. Suffer those families needing help. Old age homes are closing. Suffer the elderly. They must vote for change. 2,800 graduate social workers are unemployed, despite contractual obligations by the department, because they were not budgeted for. Suffer the vulnerable needing social assistance. They must vote for change. The Child Protection Register is way behind. Suffer those trying to adopt and give orphans loving homes. They must vote for change. And when the people of the Eastern Cape come out and say, enough, Minister, enough.
Honourable Member,
the
your time is
minister
up.
cried, oh, shame.
Order.
She has ignored
time has
the
expired.
rivers of tears shed by the suffering poor. Vote for change.
Honourable members, order. Honourable members on both sides, can you please be disciplined? Can you allow the member to be heard, even if you interject? Don't scream. Order. Honourable Malgas.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. All protocol observed, I greet you. In the Eastern Cape, we just say, Moweni nonke. Chairperson, according to the ANC Strategy and Tactics, 2007, our strategies for social transformation must seek to empower people to uplift themselves out of poverty by creating adequate social nets to protect the most vulnerable in society. Therefore, in concluding this remark, our goal as ANC members to realize our objectives within the strategy and tactics document in our oversight function will be to ensure that the ANC government implements a comprehensive program that focus on the triple challenges alluded to by our President Jacob Zuma in the sworn address to the nation, which faced by vulnerable persons in our society. The social development budget, I must say, is aligned to the triple challenges. Chairperson, great strides have been made by the Department of Social Development in fighting poverty, even in the past recession, and even now, because we are in an economic crisis. Our most vulnerable was and is protected by social nets in terms of grants and other social services rendered by the department. And we thank the Minister and we thank our department for that. Chairperson, South Africa is acknowledged nationally, and people don't want to say it, and internationally as one of the only countries to have embraced a developmental social welfare approach. We, the ANC, applaud the department and the officials for this because it's a step in the correct direction. Indicators. People do not want to speak about the international indicators. The United Nations recognize the work done by this department. We as the ANC, in order to understand that development approach, the department also deliver an integrated, sustainable and quality service in partnership with all those committed to build a caring society, its entities and sister departments. A list of programs in which the department takes a developmental approach are as follows: comprehensive social security, food security, domestic violence, and job creation, and people touched on many of this. In job creation in the State of the Nation Address 2016, the President Jacob Zuma highlighted that government will set an aspirational target growth of 5% per year for job creation to be achieved by 2019. In terms of empowering citizens through job creation, the expanded public works program, which currently includes community home-based care and early childhood programs, is a contribution that this department is making. The Maslow theory of needs stipulates the levels of fulfillment of individual needs. It is therefore important to meet the individual and family basic needs, and the department's programs are geared in that direction. The Masu Patsela Youth Program of the department plays a significant role in creating employment opportunities for our youth. On taking developmental approach on service delivery, the department continued its efforts to develop and facilitate the implementation of youth development and empowerment programs. In this regard, a total of 47,276 youth leadership camps attended by 2,208 young people. Over 47,000 youth participated in skills development programs 2014, 2015, and that is achievement. And the department has set new realistic targets for this financial year. Youth is the investment of our country, and this department is proactively monitoring and building skills for the future. The ANC would like to thank the department because this is one of the challenges facing youth. Because when questions are posed to African leaders, they do not concentrate on youth. But the programs of social development meant our youth to take over in the future. Capacity building is one of the interventions that the government is using, which is aimed at uplifting previous disadvantaged people who were neglected or excluded by the apartheid system to play a role in the economic development of the nation. The NDA has taken a strategic view to shift programs and operation perspective towards building a vibrant and effective civil society in our country. This shift from a narrow focus program implementation to that function of providing an enabling environment through mobilizing, facilitating will assist both the state and the social development sector in realizing the goals as set out in the National Development Plan and ensuring that government outcomes are met within the medium-term strategy framework. The Department of Social Development has increased its reliance in using not-for-profit organizations and NGOs within their policies in delivering their programs to communities. This has attracted a number of communities, organizations to formalize themselves and make themselves available to access funding from this institution for implementing community-based programs, and that is in our program 4. The local government manifesto.
1 minute left.
Sloganizing local government is in your hands refers to local economy and jobs, crimes, education, community development, which falls within the mandate of social development. And according to Chapter 3 of the Constitution, the National Development Agency and social development will play has a role to play. We as the ANC would like to say we adopt this budget. Vote ANC, stem ANC, vote le ANC. Sia loba. Yeah, we do not in the ANC, and about remains to say, argue with people that like to hear their own voices and like to hear what they would like to hear.
Honorable member,
and that
your time is up.
I adopt the budget. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Oh, ayikho phela le nto ngasekhaya. Ngibonga kakhulu esihlalo. Ngibonge futhi namalunga akhulumile aveza imiqondo yawo ngokuthi yini ebalekile kufuneka siyenze. Ngabe ngenza iphutha elikhulu if I don't recognize the work and the achievements that were made by Virginia Peterson at SASSA. Anyway, she's now a doctor, Virginia Peterson. Her professionalism turned the agency into a stable, efficient organization. And then secondly, all these cases that people are talking about here were found by the very system, because you are able to monitor areas where there are grants that are going out and in a very wrong way. So these are the outcomes of the system. And ngifuna ukuthi azi uVirginia ukuthi siyabonga, siyanconcoza, sitho kuhle kodwa uyibekile induku ebandla. Uzoqeda emsebenzini ngoMay 15. Ngiyathanda futhi ukubonga uActing Director General wethu. Ngibonge futhi ama-advisor ethu. Ngibonge futhi uDr. Vuyelwa Nhlapo. And I would also like to congratulate the newly elected board of NTA. And hope that they are going to do their best. We agree fully that the deductions are illegal and immoral. We have published a revised regulations to the Social Assistance Act, and we did say that on Friday, the revisions will be published. And yours is to support us, because we all don't want them. And then, there is no decent country in this world that does not have a social security system. Oh, there is no country that has our security system that is of a top class, like South Africa. And this has been said by a very huge institution, the Reserve Bank. In the UN, we were called to come and give a report about our system. So it's highly regarded. So one other thing that people must know is that it's a mistake to try and trade off jobs, growth with social security. Social security expenditure has proven to contribute to economic growth and human capital development. It is an investment in the future. It is for this reason that the Constitution has made access to social security a right. Our challenge is to increase grants, universalize them. And then one other issue, gender-based violence. I think we need to be very careful. These are not political issues. Because if we change them and make them political and leave out communities out of the whole issue, we will be making a mistake. Because gender-based violence happens in your house, done by your husband. To you, come from the elite class, they don't sleep at home, and then they only give you money so that you can buy nice things and look as if you are looked after. It cuts across, and therefore I refuse that it be used as a political ball. And also we need to congratulate ordinary women, because they are the ones actually who have come up in the open in fighting violence against women and children. Other issues, I think we will talk about like the issues of the experience we have about the abuse of grants. Last week we were in Beaufort West, and then we visit a family where the family gets 5,999 as the grant for the whole family. And then
Order.
And then instantly, we have appointed an administrator to help that family use its money wisely. And therefore, the visits that we do going to communities, it's not nice. Sometimes our officials sleep in backpackers' places, and they've been very kind to government. They're not very particular.
Chairperson.
And then, Mhlonhlo women,
Order, Honourable
we
Member,
are
what's your
going
point of
there.
Order.
And,
What's the point of order?
Chairperson, according to the time allocation we have, the minister has 5 minutes.
Sorry, you
It's
are,
now over 6
you are
minutes.
not chairing. Thank you very much. There is
Can
the
we ask for
national
some guidance
table.
on how much minutes
Honourable
we have?
Waters, can you please take your seat?
Thank you. And that we want to say to those that are saying grants are not sustainable. Also, poverty is not sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for your response. Honourable members, order. There are a few things I would like to raise. Firstly, I think, as indicated earlier, we need to be respectful, both of our own processes, our own rules that have been established by this assembly. Honourable Waters, time management is done by the chair assisted by the NA table. As you appreciate, members do come when some of their members in their list have not finished their time to ask that to be added to another member. It's a rule that's done. Honourable Waters, we can debate that in the Rules Committee, or we can debate that in the Chief Whip's Forum. And that doesn't apply only to you, it applies to all other members who have tried to assist the chair in one way or the other. Secondly, I would like to apologize to the members of the public for some unbecoming conduct that they experienced in this house. I don't think we painted a picture that is becoming. Ngithanda nje ukuxolisa kumalungu akhona abezivakashele emenywe ngungqongqoshe ngesimo abasibonile esingathandeki futhi esingesihle. Ngithi siyaxolisa kini yize nizimenywa zethu umyalezo kaNgqongqoshe niuzwile ngethemba ukuthi leso sithombe sibi anizuhamba naso ukuye emakhaya kodwa nizohamba nenkulumo uNgqongqoshe ayibekile ngokomgaqo we-budget yakhe. Ngibonge ke kuni nonke ebenikhona kanye namalungu e-department nakulezo zikhulumi ezikhulumile kule debate. Ngithanda ke futhi ukunikhumbuza malungu ukuthi i-budget vote kaMongameli izoba kwi-National Assembly ngo-2 namhlanje. Sesifikelele esikhathini sokuphela kwale debate.